please introduce yourselves and what it is you do and who you are?
Yeah, my name's David, and I play guitars in the Dirty Skirts.
And my name's Jeremy, and I sing in the Dirty Skirts.
Now, you guys have been a band for quite some time. I remember getting involved in music for like the first time. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you guys feel old if that's what's happening, because that happens a lot on these shows, especially when I'm talking to some of the guys that I looked up to getting into music. And I remember just starting out doing live music and seeing you guys at, I think it was Park Acoustics. It was probably one of the coolest shows I'd been to at the time. I think I got to see you guys, I got to see Desmond and the Tutus and Short Straw and Matthew Mole. It was just like a powerhouse of a lineup of like all the best South African artists I could have hoped to watch that day. And yeah, how long have you guys been a band?
So we've been a band since 2004. So I imagine that when you saw us at Pocket Acoustics, we'd already been going for probably like 8 years, 6 years, something like that.
Was the Park show that unfortunate incident where Maurice got wedgied and nearly killed me?
And I think the one that I saw was at Emerentia. It might not have actually been Park Acoustics or something similar, but I'm pretty sure it was a Park Acoustic show at Emerentia.
Okay, yeah, that lineup. It was certainly Matthew Mole. Was Desmond and the Tutus there as well?
Yep, Short Straw. I'm having some memory that maybe that gig that you're referring to was one that we had a great time at. And David, we as a band, we had a pretty large pranking habit with each other. And David just decided to basically wedgie, like as in pull
I
up.
was encouraged to wedgie. I never take a decision like this autonomously. I was encouraged, perhaps even instructed, to wedgie our bassist.
And our bass, and Maurice is kind of enormous. He's got like quite a lot of muscles, and he's normally like a real gentle giant, but he lost it and he chased David all the way across the fields around Emerentia. Anyway, that was a lot of the aftermath of our touring was incidents like
Yeah. Well, our manager thankfully got in between us and you know, attempted to establish some calm, but the passion, as he's known, stormed off, and he was seriously pissed.
He didn't get onto stage for sound check actually. So we were like moments before going on stage, and he was MIA. Anyway,
and his underpants were missing as well. But he arrived. He arrived as we were about to go on, and it was just one of those beautiful things. Like, I mean, we used to prank a lot, and sometimes these pranks did end in tears. A couple of them, actually. There were many, many good pranks. They were best if you weren't on the receiving end of them. But we had a big band hug, as we generally do before getting on stage, and we got up there and we ended up having a great show. I remember it was just like, okay, this is done. This is behind us. Let's get locked in here and do our thing.
that's a long way to answer that question.
Like, and I'm just be curious. I've been watching like I don't know if either of you watched the punk rock NBA with a guy named Finn McKenty. I was watching a video of his today where he was talking about like a lot of like how the early 2000s was a really different time for alternative and rock music and metal in general in terms of just publicity and stuff like that. Now, what was it like for you guys? Like, do you guys have like fond memories of the early 2000s being like an alternative and a rock band in that time frame? Like, was it comparably different to what it is now?
Yeah, I think so. There was a scene that emerged, certainly like around, rock and indie rock. It was very much like clubs and, what people were doing for, with their time on weekends, Fridays and Saturday nights. And it was amazing being a part of that in Cape Town. Fuck Off PC Car, ourselves, Lark, the Wild Eyes, Taxi Violence, and many others, I'm sure. I mean, we were out and about, and these were very well attended shows. They would be sold out shows. It would be tons of fun, and it was amazing being a part of that. And like we started. I don't think you could really started lower in the music biz than what we did. Jeremy and I met, and we started to write songs together. We didn't let not having a full band stand in the way of us getting out there. Jess would write beats on a laptop computer, and we programmed in bass lines, and we started performing, just the two of us. And those shows were originally on a Monday night, I think, at something called the Six Gun Sessions. It was a student night at Mercury, and all the students were upstairs where the Jewel was, and we were playing downstairs. And the only people that really saw us was the bartender or the odd student that was impatient for getting to the front of the queue upstairs and would come downstairs for a quick shot. Anyway, we knew that what we wanted to do was to play upstairs. We just didn't know how to do it. And so what we did was we hired the venue, and we put ourselves at the top of the bill, and we hired some other cool bands. I think who played with us there, Jess? Was it Taxi Violence?
Was that as an act of love, the bunnies drew blood that night? Was that show?
Yes, I think it was that one. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like, that's how it started, and then all of a sudden we were managing to kind of play shows like, at decent clubs, and yeah, it was amazing being part of it.
But right when we started, there was almost like a little bit of a lull. And then when we got to Joburg, for example, for the first time, we got up there with Taxi Violence and Wild Eyes, I think. It was almost like this wave had begun. I just remember there was like a lot of hype at that. And it was like, oh my God, there's actually a scene happening, and Cape Town's got a scene. And at that point, Joburg was a bit boring, but then Joburg also switched on. And South Africa, like the gigging scene in South Africa, I think really switched on. I mean, with bands like, as David said, Fokof Belisika as well. It was just like, it was a big scene by 2006, 2007, 2008, all the way through to 2012, 13, etc. Yeah, so it was such a wild time to be starting out and then developing a name. And so we had to get used to the stages getting bigger, each time like nervous, and, as we got onto a bigger stage, nervous but excited. That's how it went, I think.
And you guys obviously played Opi a couple of times, I'm assuming, like Rocking the Daisies and stuff. Rocking the Daisies being a more like recent festival, but like I'm pretty sure you guys played Opi like in what I would assume is the prime of Opi.
Yeah, we had the privilege of playing Opi, if I'm not mistaken, 5 times. We definitely played Rocking the Daisies 5 times. So yeah, we're very proud of that. We played some festivals where we weren't invited back. But, those 2 particular festivals were quite kind to us, as was, up the creek. I think we played a couple of times in Ramfest. But, we were very fortunate and privileged to play, all the South African festivals and a bunch of them a couple of times. And, even Kirstenbosch Gardens, that was like a very, very, very special experience for us. And we got to play that twice. We had an amazing run of getting to play on some, significant stages. A couple of Coca-Cola fests as well, which was amazing. So it really was a beautiful time. And that kind of big game temperament that, needs to be developed quite swiftly, as Jess was saying, playing bigger and bigger stages. But, going from a club to a festival, or in our case it was getting invited to play this thing called Sound of the City. And I think Sound of the City, I'm not sure if it was 3,000 or 5,000 people, but prior to that, we had played maybe Independent Armchair Theatre with 300 people, Mercury Live with 500 people, maybe Assembly, but no, not even Assembly by then. So probably from 500 people jumping to, I don't know, 3,000, or maybe
a lot of TV cameras on those booms, all that kind of stuff. I mean, terrifying and exciting, but also like super scary. Specifically, that show was scary. We could only play 3 songs, and we had to basically, you'd walk up this long ramp, and there was just like a curtain, and you walked up to the curtain, and there was somebody with like a headset, and he was going. And because it was being broadcast, it'd be like, okay, you're on stage in 1 minute, 30 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get up there. And you just go as you walk through these curtains, and then people start screaming, and there are cameras everywhere. And you just got to start playing 3 seconds later or 5 seconds later. Anyway.
Like no room to fuck up in the slightest. Like
Yeah, you
Zero room to
can.
that is terrifying.
It's
Like,
optional.
like I know that in my shoes, I would be absolutely, if I was in your shoes in that situation, I would just be a bubbling mess.
Well, it's not just it's not. I mean, there's all of that stepping out and kind of and hitting it right. But every had some difficult shows or some horror shows, and it's a band being unrehearsed or pissed or whatever it might be. Actually, often what happens is your on stage audio is poor, and it's frequently the festivals or the bigger stages where that potentiality does exist and sometimes manifests, unfortunately, because they're turning over bands so swiftly. And you just another band's kind of clearing their stuff off and you're moving on and plugging everything in, and your lines are working, and so you think you're ready to go, you put in your inner ears, and then boom, the show starts, and you find that actually the mix is not quite what you thought it was, and all you can hear is the bass or your guitar's drowning out. You can't hear the drum kit, and I mean, that's a horrendous feeling. You're into your first song and you realize like you actually you can't keep time here.
And there are 10,000 people in front of you jumping up and down. It's a lot of people to fail in front of.
Or to feel remotely insecure about what's going on.
Yeah. So what happens though is you develop a kind of a toughness over time. You become more and more bulletproof, more and more able to ride things through. But it's definitely like a lot of acclimatizing. We always used to say it's a little bit like you get used to the altitude as it gets higher and higher. In other words, the stakes get bigger and bigger, and suddenly you're in front of 25,000 people. And you're either singing well or playing well or not. And there's some shows that, for me as a vocalist, that I did really well in, and others I did less well, and felt a bit crap afterwards, after the bad shows.
I think it's something that every artist can relate to, of getting off stage and being like, well, that was terrible. And they're trying to deal with it. And then you guys were saying that you're like, as a band, you're actually a bunch of pranksters. Like when did the pranking start? Is this just something that's been like a culture of the band from the word go, or was there like a defining moment that was someone started it and it was just a domino effect?
I think it's when we became a four-piece. When David and I, it was just him and I, we would just have a few tequilas and get on stage and do the thing. Once we got Marky involved, our drummer, and we had Passion, our bassist, when we were four of us, that's when the chaos really, really got going. And am I right, Devi?
Well, I think there were one or two instances, even as threesome feels odd, but with our original bassist that we wrote the EP with, Ryan, I don't know if you remember, there was that meme about the rat monster, which was, this is the days before memes, but there was this thing on YouTube where they like pranked this guy that he got locked in a room and there was this rat monster.
The dwarf wearing a weird rat suit.
Yeah, and we kind of rehearsed in that cockroach-ridden studio. It was pretty spooky. And, Ryan, was a little freaked out about the rat monster possibilities in there. And I do recall us locking him in the room and switching the lights off or something.
Oh, no.
So, maybe the roots of it started prior to Marky and Passion, but it definitely started to ramp up. And Marky introduced some pretty inhumane pranks, one of which was the Puss Club, which was not really much of a prank, but essentially the rule was you were absolutely allowed to slap someone as long as it was done randomly and not with any malice.
And the person receiving the Puss Club was not allowed to Puss Club you back. So you could never retaliate. You could only slap somebody else in anger.
I can feel like this just happening on the worst possible day. You're having the shittest day. Like, just work has been a bitch. Like, everything is just going wrong, and someone decides, you know what would be fucking great?
He needs an attitude adjustment.
Yeah. So while we're on this theme, we'll just touch on a couple of other of the classic pranks. Some trended and they were around for a little bit. Others were one-offs. So the one that trended for a while was just the good old classic horsey, which is you engage someone in conversation while someone else in the band sneaks behind them and assumes the position of a small pony, and then you just kind of push the person that you're chatting to over, and they tumble and hit the ground pretty hard with with a big surprise.
With their beer flying through the air, that kind of thing. This is a
Exactly.
festival favorite.
And
Yeah.
there was one instance, I don't know if you remember back in the day, there was there was a time when phones were getting smaller and smaller. They were also getting thinner and thinner. I think Samsung won the thin phone game. There was this thing was like a credit card. Anyway, the Passion had acquired one of these and he got horseyed and this thin Samsung snapped in half. So that was not ideal. I think the horsing carried on nonetheless. There are a couple of others that I think are worth mentioning. One of which was after a late night of drinking. I think we were staying at the City Lodge Hotel in Johannesburg, and Jeremy excused himself from the late night drinking, which was completely unacceptable. But we didn't oppose his departure. We just applied our minds to some devious strategy. And how it played out was after he had gone to bed, one of us went to the concierge and said that we had lost the key to our room. And she said, well, who are you? And we said, well, Jeremy de Tolly, and I'm staying in room 304. Anyway, we went back to our hotel rooms and we each filled up the bucket that was in it with water. It's actually a video of this somewhere around, Jess. Maybe you found it.
I found it.
Have you? Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Anyway, we sneaked down the corridor and we opened up Jeremy's hotel door and like sneak in there and just like absolutely water bomb him. And I mean, it was bad. Like it was just really bad. I mean, there was so much water in that room. I remember in the morning, Jeremy had to sleep on the floor for starters. But in the morning, we had to discuss this as a band because it really was quite a fuck up, and like what were we going to do about it? But what we decided to do about it was we just flipped the mattress upside down. Yeah, but you did come back and get me in the middle of the night as well. So yeah, that was that one. But one that is really stands out, and I'm surprised you would spend British pounds on such a thing. But we were touring in the UK, and we were having a few pints in Portobello Market, and there's a bar there called the Market Bar, one of my old favorites from when I was living in London, and then quietly enjoying a Guinness when I was very surprised to be on the receiving end of getting slapped across the face with a fresh trout, which Jeremy had gone and acquired from the fish markets. Anyway, then he fucking ran away before I could retaliate. So I noticed that he had imprudently left his pack under the table, and that's where the trout ended up for the rest of the day.
Oh, did you ever get the smell of that fish out of that bag?
I thought you were going to say my bed.
Anyway, yeah, there was a lot of that.
Yeah. So we had a lot of fun, I can say, like as a band, we've always got on really well. We've always really enjoyed touring and, hanging out and spending time together, which made a big difference. And, when we decided to kind of wrap up in 2012 or take a break anyway, we never really considered it like, okay, we're over. It's just like, we're done for now, for the foreseeable future. But it wasn't something that we arrived at through any discontent or, breakdowns in relationships or anything like that, which frankly does happen often in creative collaborations and bands in particular.
I actually wanted to ask because you guys have released a single this year called Doomsday Clock, it's Doomsday Clock, right? Yeah, Doomsday
Well,
Clock.
we've actually released an EP called Radiant Clouds with 3 singles called Doomsday Clock, Blue Jean Skies, and Numb and Fronting. So 3 tracks.
And then that was that, and then this has obviously been the first time that you've released music since 2011. And then, like David was saying, you guys had that break for that time frame. What was it like, sort of coming back into it after that time frame? Did you guys play shows in that time frame at all?
We
Uh,
played a few shows. Yeah, we played a few big shows here and there where we were invited to stuff, but mostly we didn't make any music. And then all of a sudden we started making during the middle of lockdown. We started collaborating over the internet. The moment we started to make music, amazing ideas just started popping out. And it was like, oh my God, it's like we barely even took a breath. And all the creative energy and the creative synergy and the electricity and connection was just there. I just, there's something about, we actually find it very easy to generate ideas together. And so it's been really beautiful making music again together.
Yeah, it really has. During the break, I mean, as Jess says, yeah, we were invited to play one or two cool shows, one of which was Rocking the Daisies, and then we did a show for 5FM as well. But we weren't writing together. And I think around 2017, Jess, you and I had a chat. I was traveling at the time, and yeah, we kind of explored the idea. Should we should we do this again? And weirdly, like at the time, the framing, we factored in a lot of other stuff like, is this going to look like we're starting up this whole engine again? It's not just about writing some songs, and are we up for that, and how's it going to be perceived, and can we tour at the velocity that we did? And I think there was just a lot of mental obstacles to it. Whereas when we came together in lockdown, it was interesting. I remember Jeremy and I were having a chat, and Jess said to me, I've been writing some lyrics. And I said, yeah. And he said, with a bit of like a naughty tone, and said, I think they're like quite dirty skirts-ish. I was like, yeah. He said, should we create and see where it goes? I was like, yeah, fuck, awesome. And so Jess said, all right, well, he's going to phone Passion. And I said, well, I'll phone Marky and let's see if everyone's keen. And those were short conversations. So, we decided to just dive in and do it again. And it didn't start out with any major intention. It was just like, well, let's write and let's see if we like the music. There wasn't even like, let's write an EP. Just said, well, let's create for a couple of months and see if we enjoy the process and if anything cool comes out of it. And pretty early in that process, we loved what we were hearing. There was a lot of potential. And so everyone just got quite serious about it. And then, when you've got your eye on recording, you're going to obviously release it, and if you're going to release it, now all of a sudden you've got your eye on performing. And so, the beast reappears. So that's where we're at. We're loving writing, we're loving recording and working together, and we really are looking forward to playing live shows again.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add, I'm super amped about playing live again. I've been singing songs from the set every single day. I'm like sort of training already, and it's I mean, partly because I want to and I need to, but another is just because it actually feels so great to sing the songs, singing the new ones that we've written, but I'm also singing the old ones. And, we're putting together like a bit of a beast of a performance. We want to put together a big show. We want to do this right. So I think we're pretty excited, right?
Big time.
No, that's absolutely sick. And then how did the relationship with Just Music come about?
Yeah, good question.
The way the relationship with Just Music came about was taking on Warren from Plug Music Agency. We wanted to get some PR work done. And then he introduced us to them. And very quickly, there was lots of synergy. And here we are, signed and sealed and working. We got a lot of work to do to get our music out again and to kind of take center stage. We want to be headlining festivals again. So we got a bit of work to do to remind everyone that we're back. But with the help of people like yourselves, we'll get there.
Yeah, I actually wanted to touch on like with that's I guess you can call it like a hiatus of that time frame. Did you guys have people asking where you were, what you were doing, and like easing back into it now, where you said like you're reminding people of, hey, we're still a thing and here's new music? Would you guys say that has been challenging with that time frame, with that gap that has been there?
Definitely. We were just having a chuckle like our Facebook community, for example, which we just ignored since 2011, it has a reasonable amount of people on it. I mean, certainly for the time, it was a reasonable amount of people, which is like 20,000, fans or subscribers or whatever it is. But the algorithm has officially kicked us completely out of this galaxy, and so as we've posted links to interviews or announcements about the album or whatever, we literally get like one or two likes. It's just not reaching anyone. It's just not reaching even that audience anymore. It's just not there. Insta's like a new platform for the band, because it actually didn't exist when, I think it was 2010 Instagram got invented, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Actually
it
curious now.
coincided. Yeah, so it's coincided with us kind of, taking the break. So yeah, there's absolutely is work to be done. Some people for years afterwards, just because they're not seeing you play every couple of months, just assume that you are still together. Yeah, I guess a lot of it's a long time, right? I mean, we've been kind of off the radar for 10 years. So the way I see it now is that we're actually starting from scratch. I mean, we've got a story and we've got a discography, and reaching people now and building our audience and connecting with and building new fans and connecting with new people, and that's all still to be achieved. So hopefully the music we make, people feel about it the way we feel about it. We're looking forward to playing live, as Jess says, and hopefully there's still like a solid artistic contribution to be made here by the band. We certainly hope so, and are willing to work for that.
The unfortunate reality is that Facebook has changed in terms of its usefulness for pushing artists. Like, it's a very much a pay to win platform these days.
Yeah.
If you're not pumping money into it, forget about reaching even the people who have chosen to follow you. I guarantee you that even if 50% of your followers were stoked that you were back and have been anxiously waiting for something, and like, I'm not saying like 50% to give you guys like to do you guys a disservice, but just as like an example, those people
Yeah,
they wouldn't even have those posts suggested to them.
Yeah.
totally.
I honestly, until I started preparing for this interview, I didn't even know that you guys had released a new single because it just didn't come up anywhere.
Yeah, that's the
What,
reality.
yeah. So like I was busy reading up and I was like, holy shit, they have new music. Like, why did I not know about this? And like, I would like to think that doing the show, I'm pretty on the pulse of local music, but apparently I'm not. So, and yeah, like yes, Instagram is better, but at the same time, it is also owned by Meta, being the same people as Facebook. Weirdly enough, I don't know if you guys are considering TikTok, as ridiculous as it sounds, but it is definitely like one of the sort of go-to platforms for music these days, especially for artists promoting themselves. And if you guys don't have one, I would highly recommend it, because I would follow that shit, especially with the shenanigans that you guys have spoken about. If more of that shit continues, I guarantee you, the more unhinged the content, the better it does on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, what you say is absolutely correct. And a lot of these social platforms are actually media channels, and one needs to pay to play. We also recognize that to participate in them on any level, you have to be producing consistent amounts of content, and the TikTok might have a different tonality to Instagram, to other platforms, but you have to be playing the content game. We're just figuring that out, because there's a balance between frequency of content and quality of content, and I think we might just need to get our heads around like being willing to maybe not over sweat the sort of creative values of, or maybe creative value is not the right way of putting it, aesthetic sort of values of the content that we're willing to put out there. And the frequency is also challenging for us. Just, we're not like, we're not at Varsity, we're all working guys, and yeah, so there's challenges. Maybe it's just a mentality, but we know that we need to play that that content game harder. We're just trying to figure out how to do it in a meaningful way and produce content that we're happy to stand by. So yeah, you'll get to see more from us soon, that's for sure. We're just actually figuring out how best to visualize our music so that it can exist in video formats and however else.
Yeah, completely understandable. It's definitely an adjustment. Like, honestly, like, social media work and promotion is a lot harder than most people give artists credit for, or even like the people whose job it is to create social media content. It's like a full-time job in its own right.
Yeah, but we're aiming to produce beautiful work on that side, and slowly but surely you'll see over the course of this year we'll be putting out more and more content and more beauty and some more playful stuff too along the way.
No, I'm absolutely stoked for it, lads. On that note, though, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me. I can't express how much I appreciate it, especially after, as I said to David earlier, my dipshittery with the schedule of all of this.
No problem, Marcel.
I've had a lot of fun with this chat, and I'm really stoked to have had a chat with you, considering how much I looked up to pretty much most of the bands from that era, like you guys and Short Straw and the Desmond and the Tutus and Matthew Mole, because those are the guys that were doing the big things when we were just starting out as musicians. So
Awesome.
I'm really I'm gonna like sound corny here and say honored to have had the time to have a chat with you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Marcel. Great to meet you,
And
Ed.
before you go, where can people find you guys? Where can people find your music and see what you're up to? And just so they can actually get back in touch with you guys and what it is that you're doing.
Okay, so the best way to follow the Dirty Skirts is to find the Dirty Skirts on Instagram. Go to thedirtyskirts.com. On your favorite streaming service, Apple Music or Spotify, just search for the Dirty Skirts. That's all you need to do.
Fantastic, lads. Thank you so much. I can't express once again how much I appreciate this. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening.
Thank you,
Thanks a
Marcel.
lot, Marcel. Look forward to meeting IRL.
Shit, I'm still driving my 3.7 liter